We're going to talk about something that I think might be a wonderful combination of my experience last week going to the multifamily event and Mr. Stephen Dow from Velocity Mortgage and the infamous 90% CLTV loan. But before we do, Stephen, why don't you do that marketing shtick so we both don't get in trouble?
Okay. Although, again, I work very happily for Velocity Mortgage Capital. All the ideas and topics discussed on this channel are that of my own. So let's get it going.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about at this conference, there was one panel that was equity and debt, right?
Mhm.
I think there were three people on the debt market and four or five people on the equity market. And what became very clear is we have a mountain. One person said a trillion, one said a trillion and a half. It's a big number of
Mhm.
commercial paper coming due for refinance.
Right.
It is also very clear that in the debt market, there may be some lenders that won't refi performing notes because they want the cash. In the equity market, it was very clear that some of these deals put together had horrible underwriting debt with bridge debt and things of that nature. So
Right.
I was hearing all of these stories, and all I kept coming back to is, can I use the 90% CLTV again, combined loan to value,
Right.
to help? Some of these deals are going to blow up because the debt's bad. The asset is okay. The debt
Right.
is horrible. So I'm
Right.
thinking, 90% CLTV loan, use velocity in first position, let the
Mhm.
seller, get something out of the deal in second position, but at a very low rate.
Right.
And, I don't know. That was one of the things I was left thinking about at the event. How does that feel to you?
I mean, it definitely could be another tool for, somebody in distress, especially for something that's going to mature in the next couple of years to where in the current rate environment, they're just not going to debt service and they're just not going to either cash flow, whatever the case may be. So in many cases, that just reduces the probability of having potential buyers of that property just because of the environment, the circumstances. So I think with that tool, if the seller has enough equity, excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Um, they can potentially allow for the seller or excuse me the buyer to come in with less money down and in effect, potentially help it to cash flow or, less cash all in kind of thing. So it definitely would, I would imagine, increase the probability of finding a potential buyer because again, 10% down versus 30 or 25% down or more. So that definitely could assist in a lot of different situations. Just depends on the resources for that deal.
Yeah, and I was thinking because we were here, I was hearing stories not only at the event but also in the hallways,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some, I'll call them owners for lack of a better term, sponsors
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
have just horrible debt structures, and they really have two options in my opinion. One
Right.
is they're going to fire sell the asset because
Right.
one thing you can't do as a general partner is have a foreclosure on your record.
Right.
So you're actually in competition with your limited partners. You will fire sell an asset and wipe
Mm-hmm.
out your LPs
Right.
to make sure it's not foreclosed.
Right.
But so there will be some fire sales. But what I was thinking about the 90% CLTV loan is you can come in velocities in the first, and then you could pay a bigger price, right?
Right.
So the LPs have something, but you could push off the debt. You can make it a balloon. You could make
Right.
it low rates. It's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to be totally wiped out, or do you
Right.
want to take a little drip until 4 or 5 years into the next cycle? Which is, I think people just need to get a lot more creative.
Oh, agreed. I mean, as many tools in the toolbox or little hacks or little kind of you know creative type of financing options that you can present in this environment right now is going to be obviously useful because of circumstances, either rate environments just pretty high to where properties aren't going to be cash flowing in many cases, and so you just kind of have to shift around and be creative as far as the leverage position to allow it to cash flow. In addition to that, in some cases properties won't debt service either. And in many regards, for our commercial properties, up to a certain loan amount, we don't require debt service ratios to be met either. So not only the 90% CLTV, but also the fact that loan amounts up to 500,000 and under, debt service, and then we do allow for multifamily to be owner occupied. And so you can live in one of the units and do like an apartment hack kind of situation
Right.
and rent out the other four. And in that case, also no DSCR up to 750,000.
Oh, nice.
So there's, I mean, to kind of paint a ideal picture, you got a potential, borrower looking to, live in one of the units. It's $1 million apartment. He lives in one, rents out the other, whatever, 4 or more. And so then no DSCR because the loan amount's going to be at 750,000. So we don't even care what it rents for. It just needs to be at least 70% occupied at that point. So 7 out of the, say, 10 units or whatnot. So that sounds potentially doable as far as like a 10-unit property at $1 million or less and that type of situation. So it could, kind of work out in that kind of circumstance. So we won't be everything to everybody, but with that 90% CLTV and the fact that we don't require DSCR, up to a certain loan amount, it's going to be able to help a lot of people out of a bad situation, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of folks that are going to be looking for these creative opportunities, and I strongly suggest you reach out to Steven just to see what's possible because he'll tell you, sorry, we don't play there. They're not everything to everyone, but they are a make sense lender. Steven, how do you want them to reach out?
Again, just SDAO, SDAO at velocitymortgage.com. In the subject line, just the acronym ORAAT stands for one rental at a time. So we make it past the firewall. Body of the email, brief description, maybe what you're looking for. Property address would be great, at least the city and state, just to make sure that we lend there. And of course, your mid-FICO score and best number to reach you at. And I'll be in touch usually within 24, 48 hours.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much.